Hello and welcome to Startup Street. I'm Arundhati Ramnan and these are the top headlines from the startup space. 1MG turns unicorn after an internal round of funding led by Tata Digital. The board at 1MG has passed a special resolution to allot 30,992 equity shares at an issue price of 1,03,047 per share to raise $40 million from Tata Digital. Regulatory filings sourced from Toflo showed Tata Digital had acquired 1MG at a valuation of around $450 million in June last year. SoftBank Group is in talks to invest $35 million in car service and repair startup Go Mechanic, as per a Reuters report. Vision Fund's early-stage talks with Go Mechanic are being held around a valuation of $600 to $700 million, with Malaysian sovereign fund Khazanah and existing investor Tiger Global also planning to invest in the $100 million funding round, the report added. Global venture capital fund MSA Novo invests over $15 million across 6 Indian startups, marking its debut investments in the country. The investments were made across MPL, Slice, Jar, App for Bharath, Flint and Questbook, with a focus on early and growth stage tech-enabled startups. Fintech platform Gromo raises $11 million in its Series A funding round led by SIG Venture Capital. Other key investors include Y Combinator, Das Capital, Goodwater Capital, Beyond Next Ventures, Soma Capital, Ace & Company, Horsecast Ventures. The company plans to utilize the capital to double the headcount in 6 to 12 months. Epopay, a payment gateway firm backed by Coinbase Global, Better Capital and Bloom Founders Fund, acquires a risk management startup, Tutela, for an undisclosed amount. With this acquisition, Tutela plans to help Epopay in preventing fraudulent activities in the payment space. Flipkart enters the hotel booking segment more than a year after it acquired online travel aggregator ClearTrip in a bid to diversify its presence across digital commerce segments. The new hotel book feature, Flipkart Hotels, will provide customers with the opportunity to book hotel rooms across 3 lakh domestic and international hotels. Cybersecurity researchers have discovered a potential data breach in TikTok app, allegedly involving up to 2 billion user database records. Several cybersecurity analysts tweeted about the discovery of what was a breach of an insecure server in the allowed access to TikTok storage, which they believe contained personal user data. Well, those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening on What's Brewing Today. The government has been able to demonstrate that the National Single Window Clearance System for investors and entrepreneurs is functional in a short period of time. That's the word coming in from DPIIT Additional Secretary Sumita Damra. Speaking to CNBC-TV18's Abhimanyu Sharma, she elaborated on the government's plans to onboard various states and integrate with countries with similar systems to ensure a boost in trade. Here's a slice of that conversation.
In a short period of time, we've been able to establish a national single window system and demonstrate that it is functional and it's functioning well. Already 14,000 approvals have been availed by the investors on the national single window system. Another 13,000 are in progress, and about 1 lakh of unique visitors have used the Know Your Approvals pre-investment advisory on the national single window system. Now, to take this further, we at the moment have approvals of investment-related approvals of 24 Government of India departments and ministries on the single window system, and we will be adding. We are working with another 8 ministries to get them onboarded. Similarly, 16 states are already onboarded and integrated with the national single window system. These are the states which had more mature single window, state-level single window systems. With the other states, we are working, including the 7 states which don't have a single window system at all, but we are offering our technical architecture. As we go forward, we are also looking at integrating our single window system, national single window system, with the national single window systems of other countries. Like with Singapore, we've already started our discussions on how to integrate so that it's more easy for foreign investors to be able to use our single window through their own country's national single window system.
Duty-free access, has that been sought for various ODOP products in various FTAs? What's the current status, and which products and FTAs are being targeted?
You see, ODOP is a very unique concept, and it's a concept which is evincing a lot of interest from all the states. where the artisans who are making the product, the unique products, we are enabling them to access the market with quality products. They've been onboarded onto GEM, and already more than 100 suppliers are onboarded. The entire principle is to give access to credible suppliers of the ODOP products who are in many cases themselves the artisans to global markets. That's how we are going to take ODOP forward.
Ma'am, but are there plans to include them in FTAs? I mean, what are the current status of talks?
Yes. You see, they will be part, since ODOP is for promoting each district as an export hub. So naturally, they'll be part of the FTAs.
Well, moving on, space tech startup Skyroot Aerospace has bagged $51 million in a Series B round led by Singapore-based GIC, whose managing director will join Skyroot's board. The latest funds will be utilized by the startup to expand its engineering team. The company currently has a workforce of nearly 200 employees and will look to expand this further. My colleague Ritu Singh caught up with the company's co-founder, Skyroot Aerospace, Naga, Bharath, Daka, and here's what he had to say about the company's fund allocation plans and its growth blueprint. Take a look.
So with these funds, we'll be going towards our first few launches. These funds will be sufficient for us to go to and achieve our first few launch milestones, which will be happening in the next year. And also we'll be adding to the talent pool of the company also.
So tell us a bit about the launches that you have planned in the near future, and of course this Vikram that we are standing next to. You plan for the Vikram rocket to be in the orbit sometime in 2023. Is that on track as well? Yeah,
we're targeting a first launch by mid to 2023, and this is subsequently immediately a few more launches after that. Okay. And this is the Vikram launch vehicle. It's named after Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who is the founder of Indian Space Program. And yeah.
No, but what are the kind of launches? Could you give us some insight into what you have planned for the rest of the year, maybe next year?
So over the next one and a half year, we'll be working on extensive ground testing of our launch vehicle. We'll be all the subsystems and stages will be tested on ground, fired on the ground, multiple stages, and also all the avionic subsystem structures will be ground qualified. And by mid next year, all this will culminate into our first maiden launch.
$51 million is a huge amount of money, largest, like I said, that we've seen in the space tech sector. How long are you covered for, and when do you think, if at all, you'll need the next round of fundraising in the near future?
So we are covered for multiple years. As I mentioned, we will become operational with this funding, and there will be launch revenues coming in also as we become operational. And our next fundraise can happen in after a few years. Mainly, basically, we want to integrate all the manufacturing that's happening externally, maybe, and we want to vertically integrate all the manufacturing aspects. Is the only reason why we need to raise funds later. So maybe for some R&D activities later.
Okay, when it comes to the space launch vehicles, the larger market is outside of India. Yeah. Tell us about some of the conversations you've been having with governments or with private companies in countries abroad, and what kind of business opportunities you see there.
So you are absolutely right. The most of the commercial space launch market, the satellite operators are based in US and Europe and Asia, few of the Asian Pacific countries. In India, the market is kind of nascent as yet. So most of our potential customers also are in US and Europe, with which we are actively interacting. We have signed multiple MOUs with established players, and even launch service agreements, even for our first maiden launch, have been signed with few players.
Any names we might know of these private companies in US, etc., that you're speaking with?
It might be difficult to reveal at this point of time because of the NDA aspects. But
all right, what is the size of the opportunity in India itself? I know you said it's a nascent stage, early market, but what is the kind of opportunity you see for companies like yourselves that are starting up in the sector?
That's a good question. Basically, PSLV, even though it's a well sought after vehicle and with more than 300 foreign satellite launches so far, like the Indian share in the global space launch market is less than 1%. And India being a proven low-cost space mission nation, any private entity in India shares that advantage of being able to deliver low-cost space missions. And leveraging on that advantage, we will be offering cost-competitive space launch services to the world, and thereby increasing the market share to hopefully at a double-digit percentage in the decades to come.
Any private or any partnerships within India you could tell us about that you're looking at in the startup space, especially now that it's been opened up?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks to PMO for opening up the space sector and the regulations that have been introduced from 2020 onwards. And the in-space organization, the regulatory and promotion body, is actively working with us and helping us in getting the necessary help and aid from ISRO to be able to reach our milestones on time. And we are also actively working with our friends and fellow startups in India also to explore the synergies wherever possible. And we even had a joint collaboration with Bellatrix for a in-space propulsion system that they're developing, which can go on board our launch vehicle to space, where we can cater to multiple orbits of our customers would want to reach to.
Earlier you said you also want to expand the pool, the talent that you have at the company. Currently, what is the strength and how much do you want to expand it by?
So we are close to 200 people now with a combined experience of more than 1,000 years with all the veterans also from ISRO all there, and all the average age of our company is around less than 35.
Many of them your former colleagues?
Yeah, few of them are former colleagues, and few of them are from the aerospace rocket industry as such. So the talent pool of Skyroot is what made us what we are now, and what enabled us to be able to get the confidence of the investors also.
So 200 people currently, it will expand to?
We are planning to expand it by another 30%. We might go up to 250 to 300 at the maximum till our first launch.
So that's Skyroot's fundraising plans. But moving on, global multi-stage investment firm B Capital in July announced the close of its first dedicated early-stage fund named Ascent, raising $250 million with an emphasis on the US and Asia. On the sidelines of TIE Delhi NCR's Internet Day, my colleague Aishwarya Anand caught up with B Capital's partner Karan Mohla, who is also leading the Asia team for Ascent, to understand what will be the key focus areas for the fund. Take a look.
For us, early stage really is from seed to Series A. We deploy as low as $500,000. We can go as much as 10 million. And the sectors of focus for us really are around enterprise, SaaS, healthcare, fintech, a little bit around agri-tech, enablers like logistics, mobility, transportation. And a lot of the sunrise sectors that we see in India and in Southeast Asia, given the young population, given the digitization that we're seeing happening.
Now, Karan, earlier in your interviews, you've also mentioned that B Capital is trying to understand the emerging trends like Web3, crypto, metaverse. So how soon can we expect B Capital to make an investment in in the sector? And as a VC firm, where do you see Web3, crypto in the future, the sector expanding? What is your outlook for it?
Yeah, so on the second part, we do think it's the future. There's obviously a lot of regulatory overhang in different markets. There is a market overhang that we're seeing. There's a liquidity overhang. I think those things need to sort themselves out in the short term. In terms of, I think, where our interest is, we've done some stuff in Web3 before. We've done investments around certain applications. But I think for now we're looking at more the infrastructure and the tools play, because you have to build the building blocks, right, for the next many years for the applications of the future to actually come. So I think for India, for Southeast Asia, it's really around focusing on the infrastructure side of it, especially around Web3.
What, according to you, have been the key growth drivers for the internet tech companies in the past 3 to 4 years, and what does the future look like there?
Yeah, so it's been, it's really been a series of things. First was what Jio did, right, just bringing 4G to everybody at a low price. So just connectivity and accessibility. And then through COVID, I think everybody realized the necessity of it, especially for SMEs and mid-sized businesses. There really was no option. And then what UPI has done in terms of enabling payments. So I think it's been some of those steps. So that's looking backward. Looking forward, I think just the ease of doing business online and creating everything for the businesses online is the very immediate step. I mentioned healthcare before. I think the third part of it is just building from India for the world. We've seen that with SaaS. We're starting to see that a little bit in healthcare. But honestly, it could be in education. It could be in many, many other areas. EV is one area that, again, where you can build from India for the world. So digitization has a major, major role to play in it.
Now, building on what you said, B Capital has been focusing on sectors like B2B, SaaS. You've invested in machine learning. You've invested in companies like Meesho, Khatabook. So I want to understand from you, what is it about these internet-led consumer companies that attracts your attention?
Look, I think if you look at India, let's take India as a market, right? You've got such a long way still to go. We've come a long way in the last 10, 15 years, but there's such a long way still to go. And we keep talking about the internet base of 700-800 million, but the actual transacting users are still in the 150 range plus minus. So you just that's a big headroom there. And then I think if you look at just basic necessities such as healthcare, education, financial livelihood, a lot of those things will be doing it the traditional way will take decades. Using technology to leverage it will take hopefully years, not in the amount of years, not decades. And so that's, I think when we look back at it, that's where the large opportunity set really is. And at the end of the day, India is such an entrepreneurial country and such a young country. And that's what we're betting a lot of the growth drivers in the future to do. Plus, just given the fact what the public and the private sector together are actually forging. So that's what makes us very positive on the user side of it, but equally positive on the business and the B2B side of it. And we're equally positive on both sides.
Correct. Now, one final question before I let you go. While the funding winter was going on, there was a lot of talk about the corporate governance, and a lot of big VC firms were writing letters to their portfolio companies, telling them what steps that needs to be taken. So I want to understand from you: did you have a word with your founders? Did you tell them to be cautious? What is the kind of advice you gave them to tide over this tough time? And what, according to you, is the key to build a very resilient company that will survive through no matter what comes?
That's a great question. And that was part of the panel that I just moderated around just leadership through turbulent times. And we heard from some phenomenal founders. And I think it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing thing from the day you potentially look at investing to the day you exit the company. Because a lot of it is based on the relationship between yourself as an investor and the founder, right? And just building that trust very early on. Being able to have a transparent and open conversation, and being open to the fact that sometimes there will be disagreements, but you ultimately have to trust the founder. But when it comes to things around corporate governance, I think there's a very high bar that always needs to be maintained. I think we've always abided by it as a firm. I, as an investor, through different places that I worked at, have tried to follow that as well. It's an ongoing thing. It's more part of the culture that you want to build in the company and on the board. It comes up during, again, turbulent times, but it should be there through good times as well as bad. And ultimately comes back to the relationship that you want to develop with the entrepreneur as an individual and as a firm. So it's something which continues, is a continuous endeavor for us.
On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, Sugar Cosmetics is now backed by Bollywood actor Ranveer Singh. A special conversation with the company's co-founder on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. Sugar Cosmetics is now backed by Bollywood actor Ranveer Singh. This partnership between the actor and omni-channel beauty company is expected to further strengthen Sugar's position among its Gen Z and millennial consumers in India. Shilpa Ranipeta spoke to Vineeta Singh, the co-founder of Sugar Cosmetics, to know about the company's latest Bollywood connection and its IPO plans. Take a look.
We didn't want just a Bollywood face, but we wanted somebody who really can, help us in this journey from here towards our IPO. And we really thought that Ranveer is, he does have a sense of business, he does have a sense of brands, and he does also have a sense of beauty and fashion. So we thought that he would be a good fit. And that's how we decided to get him on board. So he's come in and joined our Series D round at this stage. He's going to be on our cap table. I can't disclose the exact amount that he's put in, but it's at the same valuation that El Caterin came in.
So you said Ranveer can help Sugar in its journey towards the IPO. So give us a sense of what your plans are with respect to going public. You previously said that an IPO around 2024. So are those plans still on track?
Yeah. So journey to IPO is probably going to be about a 3-year journey. And we will be looking at the right time for us to actually start planning it more seriously and, going towards the DRHP. As of now, the only clarity we have is that the IPO will happen. But there are a lot of factors that go in while planning that,
Vineeta, let's talk about the financials as well. What revenues did Sugar clock in FY22 and what targets do you have for FY23? Also tell me, by when do you expect to be profitable?
So FY22 numbers, of course, are still under audit, but our FY23 net revenue target for the company is 500 crore. And we're pretty much, almost halfway down the year and pretty much on track for that. This year, which is again FY23, we will, probably be about minus 10 to 15% on EBITDA. But the path to profitability is FY24. We're very confident of being profitable next FY. We're investing in growth in FY23, and we do feel that because of the fact that the last 2 years overall the market for color cosmetics didn't grow as fast. This year is a very important year for the industry as well as for us.
Okay, great. And speaking of your offline presence, how many stores do you have currently, and how many do you plan to add in this year? And give me a sense of how much of this would be in tier 2, 3 markets.
So, Shilpa, we're currently present in about 40,000 stores. We have 115 of our own stores as well. And we're looking at overall FY23 ending with about 60,000 stores network where Sugar will be present. And apart from that, we're also looking at, being in 200 of our own stores. So, tier 2, 3 as of now is around about 50 to 60% of our business. I think over the next couple of years, that will grow to about 70 to 75% of our business. We're doing, we're even looking at some own stores in tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Vineeta, a lot of consumer brands, companies have major expectations from this festive season. Now, after all, it's the first near normal year we've had since the pandemic. So how much of Sugar sales come from this festive period, and what are your expectations in terms of sales this time?
So, Shilpa, actually, we're bracing for the festive season already because we've started on a very exciting note. This weekend was phenomenal. It was, our biggest weekend ever. For us, we typically consider the period from September to February as peak season. So it's a fairly long window of about 5 months. And we typically see that during these 5 months, we do about 60-65% of our annual business. Categories which are highly linked to festival demand, like color cosmetics, will see their largest numbers come through over the last decade. And so we're actually very excited about this season, and especially the September to Feb period. We do expect that for us, our entire monthly revenue run rate is going to jump by about 40 to 50%.
And lastly, give me a sense of your product expansion plans. Are you eyeing new categories or new product segments? And will this be through organic launches? And what is your inorganic strategy as well through acquisitions?
So as of now, we're very focused on, firstly, trying to become the #1 color cosmetics brand in India. And secondly, ensuring that, the other brand that we've acquired gets to the 100 crore mark. So these two are the short-term goals for us. Inorganic expansion and acquisition is, of course, something that, because we've just raised funding, we do have a war chest for that. And it's something that we keep evaluating every month. And, because of the fact that there's been a funding slowdown, I think there are a lot more companies in the market that are open to strategic investments from brands like us. Now, so we're, speaking to brands who are solving certain specific problems across the board, but they should have a product market fit.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned.